Over the weekend, the Wagner Group challenged Putin, unlike anything we've seen since Putin's been in power for the decades that he has. As that was unfolding minute by minute, hour by hour, what were you thinking and what were you looking out for?
The Russian people are becoming skeptical of Putin. Prigozhin was frustrated with just what a disaster the Russian military has proven to be on the battlefield. There are estimates that are going to take them 10 or 15 years to recover, not only in terms of the loss of all their inventories, but the very real surprise of all of us of just how inept their officer corps are. They do not have a command and control structure that pick any NATO ally. Every one of them execute at a superior level compared to Russia. And I think there's more to come. I think Beijing's watching it too, because this is an opportunity for the Russian people to speak up and really question whether or not Putin's fit to lead them and whether or not his vision is consistent with the Russian people's vision. And so you not only saw the Wagner Group being very visible in certain towns and villages in Russia, but you saw Russians coming out and cheering them on. Putin has a problem, and the problem started with his illegal invasion and the rape, murder, and torture of Ukrainians, and he's on thin ice. And I think we'll see more examples of this unrest in the future.
It would not yet mean, though, if there were an actual challenge that became physical, face-to-face, mano-a-mano, that it would be a reason for Americans to get in the street and cheer. It could be a very precarious and dangerous situation.
No, actually, I think, the one thing that we want to do is not have Americans determine how Russians want to be governed. And you could very easily take the bait. I was pleased to see over the weekend that our posture is largely, this is something that's an internal matter to Russia, and it needs to be sorted out amongst Russians. I think that's the posture we need to carry into the NATO summit. I'll be going to Vilnius in a week or so, and I think what you'll see coming out of that is this is all about Ukraine. Russia needs to deal with its internal affairs. Our focus and our continued focus and our long-term focus should be on freeing Ukraine.
As you head to that meeting in the next week or so, the nuclear option, quote unquote, that Putin has referred to a couple of times, I would imagine will be a topic.
I think it will be. I still think it's a relatively low risk, and you have to separate. We're hearing reports on the battlefield now of they're using banned chemical agents in a battlefield. There was a report over the last 24 hours, but the detonation of a nuclear device, if one occurs, is probably a limited tactical device, and I think that will lead to the undoing of Putin if he does it, and I believe he knows that, which is why we think that right now that's not a likely scenario.
How does the rest of the world contain that? In other words, how do we make sure that other countries that are nuclear capable don't push a button?
I think most of them understand the notion of mutual assured destruction. I think most of them understand the capabilities of the United States, and I think that is a governing factor in a very dangerous scenario. So I don't think there's anybody out there in any other country that has nuclear capabilities. It's a very small group. Has even had a passing thought about that. You always have to worry about North Korea, but North Korea knows that its existence would probably end if they were to do such a thing. Many people would be harmed. And I think that China's in a posture to where there's no scenario what I would consider that a risk. So those would-be adversaries who possess nuclear weapons, I think, have a lot of self-governing reasons why they wouldn't act. And I think they're the same ones that would, if Putin's already suffering, and the Russian people are suffering, people on the battlefield who don't want to be there for Russia are suffering, I think that would only expedite something that I believe ultimately does not end well for Putin.
And while news of the war in Ukraine is largely controlled by the Russian state, Senator Tillis believes the people who actually lined the streets, we've seen that video this past weekend, in support of the Wagner Group means Russian citizens are more determined to get to the truth of what Putin has actually been up to in Ukraine.